Guadalcanal, Part 2, Life on the Beach. Frederick D. Mann, Chief Warrant Officer 4, United States Coast Guard, retired. In Part 2, my father talks about his life on the island of Guadalcanal in the South Pacific after his ship, the George Elliott, is sunk by a Mitsubishi bomber. Here is his story in his own words.
After a good length of time, we were transferred to the island. And it was an eye-opener from the word go, just seeing it from the boat, and then I got to live there. First thing is where we're going to live. Okay, they gave you a tent. About 6 people lived in it, and the rats lived on top of it. They didn't bother you until nighttime. And those buggers would come around and it sounded like a freight train going around there. You could, the only way to get rid of them, take your shoe, hit the tent, knock it over, and give it someone else. So,
Monroe's book talked about that, said they were the size of rabbits. Is that true?
Oh, definitely the size of rabbits, and they could run just
That's a big rat.
They could run just as fast on the deal. You didn't. I don't remember even seeing one inside the tent, but they really enjoyed running around the outside of it. Boy, they had a ball on the deal. And they wake you up in the middle of the night, you take your shoe and hit him. If it's 4 or 5 tents over, that's the last you hear of him for the night on the deal. All right, and then I want to make sure we talk about a man that Coast Guard hadn't hit in the books anywhere else. And that's a surfman. The surfman was part that held up the landing craft to begin with. Way before the war broke out, they were on transports. And every station in the Coast Guard, and no doubt had furnished people. And why? Due to the fact that they were boat handlers. They knew how to handle boats. Different cats, so to speak, from the regular Coast Guard because they didn't get transferred much. If they were in a district, they stayed in that district. But in the surf, they answered all the questions. That would be for the breeches buoy as well on it. They could do everything on it. Usually you had a chief or warrant was in charge of that particular group on it. That's throughout the Coast Guard, the Great Lakes especially. They didn't need the ice too much for Guadalcanal, but they certainly knew what they were doing, because I served under one for, I don't know, almost a year, I guess. And boy, there wasn't anything about a boat he didn't know. He taught me everything under the sun on the deal. They knew the engineering as well on it. And they knew how to handle it. Wind blowing up and the surf didn't matter to them.
Did they get any type of uniform device, like they have, like airborne badge or anything like that?
They got that late, as far as I know. That device was, I think, on the hat, 2 crossed oars. I'm not sure of that. But the uniforms, just about like the uniform today, that's changed on the deal. Uniform was like... just about like the one the new one that came out on the deal. A coat, trousers, and a hat like a chief on the deal. They didn't wear that too often because they didn't get too many chances to wear it, for the simple reason they only got liberty every 12 days, even when the beach was sitting in the middle of a town. Now, for the time I spent there, I was in the Galveston Lifeboat Station for a while waiting transfer. And I got liberty a little bit every 12 days, got 48 hours. So liberty didn't run away with it.
No extra pay or anything like that?
No extra pay. The idea is they had a harder time going up, but when they got a rate, that's what it was on the deal. They stretched that money further than they did anywhere else on the deal. At the time, he couldn't teach me on a sea mule because I moved from his boat to a sea mule of my own. And a sea mule, in case you don't know, sea mule is barges, steel barges, about, I'm guessing now, about 10 foot square, we'll say. You put 8 or 10 of them together and stick a motor on them, outboard motor. The outboard motor, the shaft and all was taller than I am. It was about the size of a pickup body on the deal. That's just about how big they were. And boy, they went slow, but you could pile in. It took them, on mine, it took them about a couple hours to load it. Then they got wise and built the big ones. And they could take almost a ship's whole in cargo. Shove it into the beach. It took just as long to unload it or longer than it did to load it. Going to the ship after it was on the beach, one morning I saw this water all quiet. All of a sudden I thought a whale was coming up in front of me. And believe it or not, it was a mini sub. He just shot one in, torpedo in on the ship that was already on the beach. And he was making sure he knew that that ship was ready to go. And when he did, put another torpedo in it, and that kept him up. But he got rid of him, and that ship sailed that day on the deal. It was quite interesting. And I didn't see any personnel at all. Just saw him pop up. I didn't even look back. I kept going to the ship on the deal.
Those Japanese torpedoes are supposed to be very deadly.
The Japanese torpedoes were good. And I can compare that with, since you're talking about torpedoes. I was moved from my ship after the fire, moved at midnight. They didn't make any ceremony at all about it, receiving the captain of my ship on the destroyer. I don't know the name of the destroyer, but had orders to abandon ship. Went over the bow and hunted a place to lay down where it was dry. And the best place I could find was on the torpedo tubes. And I didn't lay that long before they got orders to fire the torpedoes and sink the Elliott. Okay, moved off, watched what went on. I know it was two, maybe three, but I definitely know it was two of them. Saw them go, just like that there, they were gone. See them working through the water, see them getting almost, it is dark, but you could see them until she got out of the light on the deal, and nothing happened, absolutely nothing. Then the order was given, I didn't hear this, but I know from what I saw, since the torpedoes weren't any good, I don't know whether too deep or just torpedoes weren't any good on the deal. Then the orders were given to get it by gunfire, which they did. But then what was bad about that, it made a target, which she was still on fire, but it made a bigger fire until she sunk, actually. The Japanese could use her as a beacon on the deal. And that missed us so far, the battles they had were right down below us, but at the same time we were within 4 miles of the slot that they went down full bore, but they didn't realize where we were. They could have got all 18 transports with no strain on the deal. All right, at night things didn't quiet down at all. In daytime you had things where you didn't pay a whole lot of attention except loading and unloading, but at night you'd hear the Japanese bombers coming in. Wum, 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 wum. You'd look up, and it was just high enough where the aircraft, they had aircraft grums, but the concussion was just high enough you could see the bombers move up and down, up and down, up and down. I never saw one of them shot down at the height. I don't know what height they were coming in at, but they were pretty high on the deal. Well, they did that for quite some time, and then all of a sudden the word got around, and it's the night fighters. The night fighters had gone out and gotten higher than the Japanese fly. And as a consequence, they waited, searchlights got on them, they waited until they started dropping the bombs. Then they got a tow into them, got every one of them. They didn't have more of those night fighters. Of course, they came again, but nothing like this day. They got every one of them on deal, because they didn't expect anything coming up there. And I don't know how far you could hear the yell, but I guarantee the Japanese lines could hear the yell at that night on the deal. That's for sure. Everybody was out looking. During all of this time, it was unusual to get a call to the commanding officer of Guadalcanal. That's the unloading. He's in charge of the whole business there on the deal. And I didn't know what the word was about, but he went. And he talked about needing somebody to take the master at arms job. The incident he had doing it, I can understand why he didn't want to continue doing it, for the simple reason he'd had a 45 put right up to his head when he called reveille on one tent. As a consequence, and also when he was doing his business, a rifle shot through the canvas that was covering it, so I can understand what. So I asked his commanding officer, I said, is this an order that I take it? He says, no. I said, I refuse it. Well, to make a long story short, about a month later, I got called up there again. And he says, take a look out there and see what you see. I looked out there. Saw a brand new truck, looked like a brand new truck, anything different looked like a truck. He says, he's going as commanding officer. He said, but I'm not taking you. He says, you didn't do me any good. I'm not taking you now. Bye now. So that left me quite a few months more to serve on Guadalcanal there. We've talked about the torpedoes, we've talked about the mastodons, about the stupid trick I pulled. I never remember having a full day on the island to do as I pleased. Wasn't any way of doing it, please. And I did get a half a day when nothing was working. I decided I wanted to get some souvenirs because I had time when the sea mules tied up to the ship while they're loading it. You could sell anything. I don't care what you had. You could sell it. So I figured I might pick up a rifle or something on a deal, souvenir. So I thought walking, I don't know how far I walked, but not too far, because we could see the fighting going on the whole time on a deal. So it wasn't over a mile or two on it. And I saw this place where it had a battle. I guess they had a battle. I don't know. I didn't ask. I just started looking. All of a sudden, I heard this voice call me, "Hey, stupid!" Huh? You call me? Yeah, I call you. Do you realize you're in the middle of a minefield? Huh? No. Well, if I were you, I'd get out of there. Well, I tiptoed out of there, and boy, I guarantee you, I didn't hunt any more souvenirs. No two ways about that. I did have 2 rifles anyway that I borrowed, stole, or what have you. I don't know how I got them, but anyway, I had them, and I sent them back to the States by an officer I thought I knew, but I didn't know him too well because I never heard another word out of them. But you could sell anything. The Corpsman, Fums's mates, they were making Japanese flags out of old parachutes, and the paint and everything. They sold for about $50 on the deal. When the Merchant Marines started coming in, see, wasn't much money on Navy ships. You could trade for something on it, but when the Merchant Marines started coming in on a deal, they'd buy anything on a deal. You just wait. You didn't have to say anything. You didn't say anything. You just sit there and work on it, or be unfolding it, shine it up, whatever you got. Questions would start coming, and you already had the answer. So that's how a little of that went on. The boat pool, which did a little bit of everything else, and this was also the boat pool that Douglas Munro served under, and the waters we worked over, the very waters that he traveled in quite a bit on the deal. And I haven't read the book, but I've got the book now, and I certainly want to read it, see how things went. They set up at the airport. I only went out there one time. That was about a quarter of a mile from where we were bunked in, where our tents were, only a quarter of a mile from us. Had no planes at that time. It wasn't unusual. They all got shot down if it didn't get them to begin with on the deal. The place all shot up, period. On the deal. So it wasn't unusual to see no planes. There were no radios. If they had radios at all, they weren't used. They couldn't use them. No lights on the deal. No docks to come up to. No houses of any kind. I never saw a single house there anywhere. No such thing as a regular car. I saw mostly Jeeps on the deal. If you know the size of a Jeep, I saw a big Japanese and 2 Marines sitting in the back seat on a Jeep. So you can guess how tight that seat was. I sat there and laughed at them. No stores. If you got anything, you traded, stole it, or what have you. I had a pocket full of money. Where I got that, I don't know, but must have gotten paid somewhere. I don't remember ever getting paid, but a native had a Japanese sword that I wanted, and I offered him up to $100. No way. Another guy was bidding on a deal. He had a pocket watch, $1 pocket watch. The $1 pocket watch did today. He gave me that. If I had a pocket full of dollar watches, I'd be a millionaire on the deal. No two ways about it. Mail, we got I don't remember getting but one mail the whole time I was there. My time was screwed up because I went in first, then I went away on the ship. Then I came back and stayed until August, July, August on the deal. Time off, I've already talked about that. Okay, here's a good one. The Army started coming in. I don't know exactly what month it was, but when the Army comes, they bring everything. And we've been pretty hard. Most of us got pretty good meals when they hit a ship. That's how the ship got unloaded in a hurry. And you could tell where the ship was feeding well by the number of boats tied up on it. Well, the authorities got wise to that fact in a hurry, and your ships were assigned to you. If you got one that didn't feed well, that's just too bad. You didn't get fed well on the deal. So that's the way that went. But on the beach, I don't remember eating and having any meals except breakfast. And what you got there was, well, the pharmacist made first, told you to open your mouth, threw a pill in it, close your mouth, then looked at you a minute, and you'd better swallow the pill, malaria. And you got your cup of coffee through the screen, little shack, a cook shack. You got a cup of coffee, not salami, but I don't remember. Well, if you got any eggs, they were the dried eggs on the deal. You could smell them as far as you could see them on the deal. That's about it. I don't remember getting any meat at all on the deal.
Just spam?
Oh, spam, yeah. Have you ever seen a ship loaded with spam? Absolutely nothing but spam. You look down that hole like looking at a mountain. They're stacked 10, 15, and 20 high on one deck, and then the next deck, and that's all you hauled all day was spam, period, on the deal. I'm told there's some good uses of it. I haven't found out yet. Okay, the Army. The Army brings everything. And this particular day, I wasn't assigned to it, but I know exactly how it worked. They started hauling the stores and getting on the deal, and we happened to be in the refrigerated end of it, and they loaded up on it, and several of them got a good load of fresh meat. All right, they got that meat in there. Exactly how they did it, I don't know, but I wasn't in on it, but I didn't get any of it. That's what makes me mad on the deal. And the Army, we helped the Army hunt for it. And we hunted all day, never found any meat. And we couldn't help them at all as we cleaned our teeth for toothpick on the deal. That was no doubt was good because I heard about it. That's about, if you can think of anything to ask me on what was seen then, the bombing, that continued very lightly, but at night you still got it. And then you had one that always came in the morning, known as Wash Machine Charlie. You never knew where he was going to drop the bomb, and he'd come in, drop his bomb, and then turn left and right out on the water. Well, that did all right till he got some airplanes out there. Then he came in one morning very early and drops his bomb, turns left, and that's as far as he got. Bingo. They nailed him on the deal. I was hauling, had a load on my barge, and it had horses and mules. And believe it or not, it had a mix there, that particular load. I don't know how many had, 15 or 20. And pulled into the beach where the landing was. This was way after the initial landing, of course. And I saw everybody not paying attention to the landing craft, whatever, looking in the sky. So I looked up in the sky, and lo and behold, an American fighter had it holed up in a cloud. Every time I'd stuck his nose out there, America was on his tail. Finally, he'd taken all he could take inside, and he came out. He lasted less than a minute. Why didn't you need horses and mules on Guadalcanal? Well, if you could see the place after it rained, you can understand that. And it's quite, the Marines were uphill on the deal, no two ways about it. And then they get something else to haul the stuff. It is very good on it. I hauled, I don't know, it was one or two. I know I hauled one load. That I do know. Whether it was two or not, no more, I don't know. I've forgotten. But it's interesting to see how they picked them up, pulled them out of the hole, dropped them down on the barge, and never had a bit of trouble from there to the beach on the deal. And see, anything else? Yeah, I've forgotten now on the deal.
When the Navy left, what were your feelings and also your buddies' feelings?
Grumbling was the full captain. I don't know if he's an admiral or not. But by the time we got the information, it was old stuff, but I can guess how that Marine felt. They hadn't gotten all the supplies by any means, and they had to eat anything from roots to rats to whatever they could catch and do. But with all the history that's written, the Japanese still couldn't break the Marines' lines on the deal. We could see them. You could see the fighting going on and see where it was. If they had broken through, we would have lasted about a half hour. That's the landing craft, all the landing craft and anything else on that island where it was located, because there was nothing there. Only one time did I give anything for protection, and got a rifle with a Cosmoline on it, about a foot thick. I never got to use it, but that was the only time. I wasn't trained for it, but and we went about it. The funny part about it, we never thought about getting killed on a deal. At no time. I never thought about it. Even my ship was on fire and saw it was torpedoed. I don't know why. You could call me a liar and get away with it, because I wouldn't fight you on a deal, but I don't understand why I get nervous now when I read the papers and see what my own government's putting out. It really scares me on the deal. And, I'd hate to be called back to do it. In fact, if I call, I couldn't do it. And that pretty well. Got any more questions there, Freddie?
One more question. Do you remember your last day there at Guadalcanal when you got orders to leave?
No, I don't, but believe it or not, that's the only place that I never felt scared. Why? I don't know. I had some very, very narrow escapes. One night we were going out to sleep on the barge. And I don't know how come we didn't go out and sleep on it, due to the fact that the next morning the 3 to 4 inch hole right through the motor, and we were going to be sleeping on one side of it on the deal. Other than that, that pretty well wraps that up on it. Maybe I missed some things.
I wanted to ask you about Monroe. In Monroe's book, they talk about the Japanese barges. They were kind of like our landing craft, correct or no?
I never saw one. I saw the ships, but I never saw one of the barges. But you could see them moving. That's how, now, whatever distance that is, that's how far away the Guadalcanal setup was, and the different movements you've read about in the history. That's exactly, you could see them doing it. So you couldn't tell exactly what the crafts were, but they had something. That's for sure. I saw two pilots on the very same little raft that were pulled in, and the planes from some of those fights came in all shot up. They were carrier planes, so they come in shot up. I noticed the pilot. When he got ready to put it down on the water, he stood up, and when he hit the water, he got thrown out. Did all right, pick him up. And that is it on that deal. And there's a few instances you could talk about, but I don't know that much about them because I couldn't get into it. I was in enough trouble the way it was, and things to pull. You don't. Talking about it now is more or less like going to the store and buying a magazine and looking at it and, they didn't do that, or they did do it. So, but I never was scared. I don't know why. I haven't figured it out. You roll out of your sack in the middle of the night for bombing to hit your foxhole, which you had dug right beside your tent. It didn't bother you. I remember seeing two that were drunk on hotchkotch, a home brew. They were on one side, and boy, I'm telling you, they were sobering up fast. A nice press group going on there on a deal on a couple of occasions. Because you drink that stuff, that's about how you wound up on the deal. But other than that, sorry to say, I saw one group of Marines come in. I don't know how many in that group, 30 or 40. Just down below us just a little bit. They got hit that night. and not a one walked away. I didn't want to see that area at all on the deal. Things like that took place on the deal, and the airport had their problems. That's for sure on it. And you'd hope for a plane if it had one. If it didn't have one, had something else. I think I've covered about everything in there.
I think you have.
Yeah, my time away from Guadalcanal before I got there, I don't know where we went. I know we went to New Caledonia. I know we did not stay in New Caledonia. I also know we went to Dry Dock. Whether New Zealand or Australia, I do not know. And I know we made several trips up to Guadalcanal, but you didn't pay any attention to it. It's just like you watching too. We watched through on the ship. We watched through doctor operating. Then the saddest part of the whole business is a funeral off of a ship. That is, I guarantee you that gets close to you on the deal. The ship doesn't stop. It goes on when they're up the plank and off he slides on the deal, and the way it goes on the deal. If you got a bugle, he sounds taps on it. If you got a chaplain, the chaplain reads the scripture on the deal, says a few words, and then anybody that wants to gets to say so in it. And up the plank, he's on the plank, and he's sewed in canvas with a heavy weight, more like at feet, and he goes to the bottom just like an anchor on the deal. That's the end of that on it. Other than that, one stop I didn't tell you about in the New Zealand setup where they had to do it all themselves. We lost 2 men on a boom on a manhole. They were riding a crossbar up and slipped out, and the bar fell on top of them. They were buried in a New Zealand graveyard, which is a very pretty place, sloped down to the water, and you see that in sunset or something else. But other than that, there's very little to tell you, because I didn't do a whole lot. I did what I was told to do, and that's it.